What is going on, you guys? Costa here, just talking about this win. I am very, very happy because this is a Denver Broncos loss and a big, big victory for the Raiders. What a game. Really an ass whooping. This was really the scoreboard doesn't even say it or reflect how the game was. Just dominant. Dominant on all fronts for the most part. But just first of all, I'll just point out a few negatives. First of one was they couldn't get into the end zone early in the game. I think it was like the first quarter, they couldn't score in the end zone, they had issues, but that's the one thing. Denver, on paper, had a very good defense, so I knew it was going to be tough, it wasn't going to be easy, and for the most part, they didn't get into the end zone. Until the second quarter, where we saw another good run, a couple good plays. I mean, really, they pounded a lot of things. But once again, that was the only negative, was that probably the first quarter just not getting into the end zone, and Janikowski's 40-something yard miss, that sucks. And it really sucks also the Raiders can't kick a field goal as easily now. You noticed it made a decision later in the game. But for the positives, everything else, almost everything else in this game. The only thing that was a big break was, I think it was the drop by Demaryius Thomas right before halftime. I want to talk about one play that's a break for the Raiders, was that drop. They need, if he hangs onto the ball, that's a touchdown, and that's a 20-14 game at halftime. But instead, it's 20-10. Big difference. But because it was 20-10, that was a lead I was willing to take at halftime. We'll all take that. I thought they were getting a little bit soft. Also, I got to pick on the secondary for a few brain farts and that one silly screen in the fourth quarter. You all know exactly which play I'm talking about. That was some really bad tackling where they looked hungover. No, but once again, everything else was dominant. The Raiders pounded the ball down the Broncos' throats. I don't think I've seen a complete 60-minute game as well as this one. This was domination because the offensive line protected, and they also deserve the game ball for this game because they ran the ball so well. And that's what they needed to do, is they couldn't ask Derek Carr to throw. We all hear about this Denver secondary and all that. Well, that's why the Raiders had to run the ball. And their offensive line has mostly been good at pass protection, but they gave a lot of holes for Murray, Washington, Richard. Lot of room. I loved that they were able to run the ball and they kept sticking to the plan. And you know what? People might say, oh, I would criticize you guys for getting all conservative in the second half, but actually I was liking the calls. I liked that they were running the ball and they were not trying to chase losses or trying to get greedy. They really, once again, they pounded the ball down the throats, and defensively they played well, also very good. They got pressure to Simeon. I was impressed there. I mean, granted, I don't think he's a good quarterback, but the Broncos have won games on defense alone. We know that. Last year, they tried to call more throwing plays, and Derek Carr threw some pick sixes, and they learned from that. They tried to run the ball, and it worked. Derek Carr had one silly mistake, and that, you know what I'm talking about, and that's the one by replay that thankfully was a drop. That was a forced throw. The one scamper by Derek Carr, I would say this game was that one. But the rest of the game, he played great because he didn't make the mistakes like last year. You learned from them. They ran the ball. And I was satisfied. The defense showed up today. I don't know how good Denver's offense is, but the defense, for the most part, minus the brain farts, was really good. So once again, the Raiders are 7-2 on top of the AFC West, a primetime win on Sunday Night Football. We haven't really seen these guys on Sunday Night Football in like a decade, if I remember correctly. They've only been on the other primetime games like Monday night or on Thursday night, which every team gets. So it is nice to win on the national stage in the main primetime slot. That's very important to me. A big win by these guys. And you look at the long term and big picture. I like what I'm seeing. So yeah, they really, from a game plan standpoint, this was a 60-minute win. And I'm always very picky about playing a 58-minute game, a 45-minute game. The Raiders of the past have been known to kind of sit on it, get laid back. For the most part, they weren't. They did a very good job of not being laid back, minus the handful of plays. And as I said, the scoreboard doesn't even show that the Raiders dominated this game. This was a blowout. I was satisfied on all fronts. Derek Carr looked very good. And yeah, I think he knows what the naysayers are. He knows people like me, what I've said about him in the past, and I think he's aware of it. So he says he didn't want to be a young QB in Tampa Bay, and this game he did exactly what he needed to do, which was not make the big mistake. And Thankfully, that one break, there were the two breaks that went the Raiders' way. One was the dropped interception, the other one was the dropped pass by Thomas. Both of those breaks saved the Raiders. The only flaw I might say in Derek Carr is that he goes for it all a little too much on like a 3rd and short or a 2nd and short. He gets a little cute, just throw it deep and get a flag, and it worked tonight. I mean, in the Raiders' favor, it worked tonight. I thought those were some cute throws that he had no business making, but the Raiders got the flag twice. They eventually led to some Raider points, and it's kind of nice to not be on the losing side of penalties. I mean, you know, Denver lost their cool. You could tell that they're frustrated. The points of emphasis are being very tight. I mean, you might have heard in Kansas City, you know, Travis Kelce, I think he was flagged for throwing a towel for toning in front of the ref. You know, you can't lose your cool. And the Broncos secondary was pissed off tonight. It was great to see them struggle, and the flags were coming the Raiders' way. But it was a team effort. Really, the offensive line was the MVP of this game for giving the ball and making sure they were able to run it. Run the clock, don't try to get cute, and they didn't have to be pass happy. That's what I said before the year started, is they had to be able to run the ball. And on a night like this against the Denver defense that's been ranked and all that, it's really good to see. Now becomes the bigger question. We move forward. You can't hang over this win. Like tonight we can be happy, but you look in the big picture. You're on a bye week. This is the part where you wonder if the Raiders get hung over or not, because while some teams do well out of a bye week like Andy Reid and the Chiefs, the Raiders bye weeks to me are overrated because it ruins your momentum. You might look hungover, you might get relaxed and complacent, and then the first game you play you get flat because you haven't played in 2 weeks. So who knows what happens this bye week? I know they go to Mexico and they play the Houston Texans, so that's not going to be an easy game, but we'll see how that goes. So, you know, big picture, the Raiders, they're in front right now. I think the Chiefs are still the favorite for this division until told otherwise. Reason why is because the Raiders have not beaten the Chiefs in the last 4 outings. It's been a while. I mean, the last time they beat the Chiefs was Derek Carr's first career win. So it'll be about 2 years since they last did it by the time they see them in December. So the Chiefs fans right now are probably going nuts and all that. They have our number. So we'll see what happens, though. The Raiders are going to be right in the hunt. The good thing, and really the big picture, is I like what I'm seeing. The offense looked good. The defense looked better. The offensive line is being as hyped up, or living up to the hype that it was in the offseason. Really, they did a very good job, and Derek Carr, once again, limited his mistakes. I cannot complain. Really, there was very minimal things for me to complain about tonight. So, you know, when I'm saying that, they looked very good. We can all be very happy. And going forward, not just now, but in the long run, this team is looking really, really good. So, great win, complete all-around effort. I'm very, very happy with what I've seen. But once again, you got a bye week, and you hope you're not hungover 2 weeks from now. You got to move forward. But tonight, we can be happy to be in first place in the AFC West division. Haven't had that in a very long time. See you guys later.